On February 2, 2009, a woman walking her dog in the West Mesa area of Albuquerque, New Mexico, made a chilling discovery. She saw a human bone, bleached white by the sun, lying on the barren ground. Police arrived to investigate, and the true horror of the scene quickly unfolded. Scattered across the desolate landscape were the skeletal remains of multiple women. The area, a vast expanse of desert on the outskirts of the city, became known as the West Mesa Boneyard. It was a grim testament to a predator or predators who had preyed upon the city's most vulnerable. 11 victims in total were unearthed from the shallow graves. All were women, mostly Hispanic, and many had led troubled lives. They were daughters, mothers, sisters, friends, their lives cut tragically short. The discovery sent shockwaves through Albuquerque and beyond. Who were these women, and how had they ended up in this desolate place? The investigation into the West Mesa murders quickly became one of the largest and most complex in New Mexico history. Detectives faced a daunting task. The desert winds and shifting sands had erased much of the evidence. Dental records and DNA analysis were painstakingly used to identify the victims. The victims had disappeared between 2003 and 2005. Most had connections to Albuquerque's drug scene and the city's troubled war zone, a high-crime area known for prostitution. Selania Edwards, a loving mother of two, vanished in 2003. Her family never gave up hope, but their worst fears were confirmed when her remains were identified among the West Mesa victims. Michelle Valdez, a young woman struggling with addiction, went missing in 2004. Her family described her as a free spirit who fell victim to the wrong crowd. Each victim had a story, a life that mattered. Monica Candelaria, a talented artist, disappeared in 2003. She was known for her infectious laugh and her love for her family. Her disappearance left a void that could never be filled. The identification of the victims brought a mix of relief and anguish to their families. The agonizing wait for answers was over, but the confirmation of their loved one's fate brought a new wave of grief. The families clung to the hope that justice would be served. They wanted to know who had taken their loved ones and why. The investigation continued, but answers proved elusive. Section 4, the investigation. The Albuquerque Police Department, with assistance from the FBI, launched a massive investigation. They pored over missing persons reports, interviewed witnesses, and chased down every lead. The investigation focused on identifying a potential serial killer operating in the area. One name that emerged early on was Joseph Blee, a local businessman who owned a shop near where several victims were last seen. Blee had a history of violence against women and was known to frequent areas frequented by prostitutes. However, despite intense scrutiny and circumstantial evidence, authorities were never able to charge Blee in connection with the West Mesa murders. He remained a person of interest until his death in prison in 2008, where he was serving time for unrelated crimes. Section 5. A community grapples with loss. The West Mesa murders cast a long shadow over Albuquerque. The case exposed the vulnerability of women on the margins of society and the challenges faced by law enforcement in protecting them. The community rallied around the victims' families, offering support and demanding justice. Vigils were held, memorials were erected, and a scholarship fund was established in honor of the victims. The tragedy also sparked a dialogue about the need for better resources and support systems for vulnerable populations, including those struggling with addiction and homelessness. Section 6. Unanswered questions. Years have passed since the gruesome discovery at the West Mesa Boneyard, but the case remains unsolved. The killer, or killers, remain at large. The families of the victims still wait for answers, their grief compounded by the lack of closure. The West Mesa murders serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of violence and the importance of advocating for those who cannot advocate for themselves. The victims may be gone, but their stories must be remembered. Their lives and the fight for justice must fuel our commitment to creating a safer world for all.